Hey everyone, Travis Merritt, Fitness Revolution, Rowlett. So it's probably a Sunday morning right now. I was actually on my way up to the studio, and on my way up here I had a client, an online client, ask me for some pieces of equipment that she could take with her while traveling. So I decided to do a little impromptu video about that, to where if you find yourself traveling, these are things that I probably would recommend keeping with you. And this cannot for everyone, but this is things that we kind of use here. I'm going to start with just the very basics and work your way up to, depending where your program's at, some little more advanced tactics. Or I should say advanced pieces of equipment. So some of y'all may recognize this bag from a while back. This is something that this damn bag has been with me for years. I'm not getting rid of it anytime soon. So if I open it up, number one thing I always recommend when it comes down to traveling is just a pair of resistance bands. You don't need much, alright, but I do recommend getting two. And you'll be surprised that even these little bands right down through here usually generate about 25-35 pounds of tension per band. And this can get fairly heavy, but they take up so little room. Now guys, I recommend bands and not not tubing. Tubing, as you see in a lot of other places, or bungees, or cylindrical, and with that effect, if you try to step on them, they have a real nasty thing of rolling on your skin or rolling off your shoes. And I'm sure some of y'all have seen some pretty funny videos on why we recommend using this and flat surface bands and not tubing. I will put the link in where I personally get these at. Guys, I've used these for a long time. They are incredibly durable. And I tell you what, when it comes to going to a hotel, not having a hotel room, not having a gym in the hotel room, this right here has demolished my body harder than some other workouts have. So highly recommend getting some of these if you're doing a lot of travel. Next thing, where is it at through here? This is my big bag of stuff. I have never left home without traveling without a lacrosse ball. This little ball right here can alleviate so many knots that you're going to get from sitting on a plane, doing a lot of driving, sitting if you're traveling for conference rooms. You're not as active as you used to be. And so sometimes, especially on a plane, when you're crouched up in a small seat, it feels good just to get the knots out with a lacrosse ball. Guys, these are a couple of bucks at any sporting goods stores. You can go to Amazon and pick these up. Very cheap, very effective. Well, another one. If you have some deeper tissues that you know you need to work on, if you are going to get access to a gym and you know that you really need to take some time digging out some of the tissues and adhesions of the hamstrings, you'll find a lacrosse ball probably isn't big enough. So what I sometimes will carry on some cases is just a softball. Again, pick this up from any major sporting goods stores. It's still just as dense, if not maybe a little denser in some cases than lacrosse ball, but due to it being larger, you can actually apply more pressure, especially into the hamstrings, small parts of the legs, that the lacrosse ball can't do. We've been doing a whole lot more of this at FR, and we've been seeing a lot of people getting a lot of tissues dug out that even a foam roller really can't get to. So again, a couple bucks. If you find that you have a lot of junk backed up through here in the hamstrings and glutes, highly recommend getting one of these and keeping this with you. You'll notice that after about a couple weeks of using this, your squats, your deadlifts, just moving in general, is substantially easier. Next, for those cardio buffs out there, actually a jump rope. Now, we have gone through dozens of jump ropes here, busted them up plenty of times. And I can say this, with a jump rope, you do get what you pay for. There are some great jump ropes out there, and there are some really crappy ones. What I have found is this is I think Buddy Lee jump rope. And this is by far, in my opinion, one of my favorite ones that I have used, just due to the fact that, one, it spins very efficiently, so you don't really have to crank in on the wrist very hard, as you would with some of those lighter cable ropes that you see. Now, you may go to some popular CrossFit sites and see that they recommend these speed cables. If you do go speed cable, make sure it's got a little bit of weight to it. Don't get the lightest one. I can tell you this right now. One, it will still break pretty easily. Two, you don't want to jump on it on concrete if possible. So even this one, I don't jump on concrete. If I can, if I got to go outside, I'll bring a mat with me. This is still small enough I can jump in a hotel room with. But still, this is the one I recommend. I will say it's a little on the pricier side, about 50 bucks. But by far, I've enjoyed jump roping a lot better with this than I have anything else. Alright, so we're going to get into a little bit more of the meathead-ish group. And these are things that sometimes I carry depending on what my program is. You may have seen this before. Fat grips. I've always said before that if you can't grip it, you can't lift it. And I really attribute that this is one of the reasons that we have people doing pull-ups a lot better, or I should say hanging onto a bar a lot easier. Two, that they're deadlifting more, because the fact is, when you can grip tighter, you're in more control. You're in more control. You lift probably just a lot better. You'll feel it that whenever you just have a good grip on something, you control it, it doesn't control you. And I will attribute this to actually helping with not only grip strength, but forearm and arm development. So again, these take up very little room. I brought this on many travel occasions to when I know I was going to get at least some access to a gym, and this has really helped make some of those lighter gym dumbbells feel very difficult and get a much better workout. Next on the list, actually a good pair of wrist wraps. Now I picked these up from Rogue, and by far for 12 bucks is probably the ones that I enjoy using the most. This kind of tapers back into the grip strength. There's a lot of exercises you'll use that not only are you having to support a bar in a military press and a bench press, overhead pressing, Olympic lifting, back squatting, front squatting, but that the bar is really resting pretty hard on the wrist. Now guys, the wrists aren't that big. Now, the muscles doing the work, the wrist is just more of a support mechanism. So sometimes you're tired, sometimes your wrist just isn't strong yet. So sometimes you need some extra support in the one. This is when I'd highly recommend getting a set of wrist wraps. I can tell you this, that this has helped my front squat, just me holding the wrap position a lot better. It's allowed my military press to go up more because I'm tighter. I feel in a lot more control of the weight. And as we talked about with the fat grips, the more control you are into the weight, the more you're going to be able to do. So I have never pretty much left without these when I do a lot of traveling. It does help getting, a good tight base of support. So when I'm having to get a weight pressed out of my hand, I feel better, I feel tighter, I feel more control. Highly recommend, 12 bucks, you can't go wrong. Sometimes you go to certain places, certain gyms, that if you are going to be doing that, and you just notice that the barbell's slick, the plates are slick, you can't move around a whole lot without the barbells and plates sliding. I've seen this happen quite often, and there's no collars to be found. I can't tell you times that just keeping a pair of collars, I know this may seem a little bit on the extreme side, but some of you guys that are heavy meatheads that watch this stuff will appreciate this, that having your own set of collars just keeps you from having to search all across the gym all over the place. Now I picked these up from Rogue, about 30-ish bucks. You can check out their site. Actually, the ones that we recommend are honestly called Lockjaw. You can go down to Amazon, pick them up, I think 20-ish in that area, about dollars. Don't quote me on that one. But I can tell you this, that any person's ever picked up a pair of Lockjaw, they're probably the easiest ones to find. Slip them on, clamp tight, done. Everything's said and done. And they do not take up very little room, say spring clamps would. And plus, how many times have you seen a spring clamp that's just bent, doesn't fit, or doesn't work right? These are good. And really, guys, I think that's pretty much about the gist of it. These are things that I recommend depending from just wanting to work out with bands to all the way to the meathead that needs just a good set of collars because they travel to different gyms and they know they can't always find some. So this is what I personally recommend. Guys, find what you like, find what works for you, but I hope this is what we typically have some of our people use at FR. So let me know what you think. If you have other pieces of equipment that you find that you use a whole lot on a frequent basis that fit into a bag comfortably, let me know. Put it in the comments below. But in the meantime, I hope that you guys have a wonderful day, have wonderful workouts, and I look forward to talking to you soon.